Hey everyone, YouTube game, we always load the silverware with the points facing down here. Back at it again with another first time Halloween video. So when you have kids and you're raising them and also trying to kind of let them just be their own people, you see a lot of stuff that like happens, a whole bunch of just like freak accidents and stuff like that that you just cannot comprehend. You saw it happen, but it still makes no sense in regards to what you just witnessed. I'm talking about like leaving the room for literally 5 minutes and coming back, and it looks like that one scene from Poltergeist, cleaning up your kid's room and finding out that they stashed a bunch of fruit in a corner that basically is creating the cordyceps virus that started The Last of Us, and the always fun mystery stain on the walls or on the floor or on your clothes. It's just as you get older, you realize like how the universe can just kind of mess with you in just like the most minute ways. And that is what brings me to the Final Destination series. Before we get started, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Reptaris, pronounced with a... I'm sorry. My name is Reptaris, also known as Elijah. I am a millennial father of 4, and I like to spend time on my channel talking about all the weird content that I've taken in my lifetime and how that makes me a better parent than like most other parents. That's pretty much it. It's just me talking about how I'm a good dad, and I'm gonna give other people tips on how to be good parents as well by just yapping about movies and video games and music. So if that sounds like your bag, go ahead and like the video, maybe even consider subscribing. Maybe even share the video, who knows? Also, let me know what you think about my intro bumper. I wanted to try to do something new, as in regards to, like, I wanted to try to make my own intro, so I did it. That's pretty much just, like, the whole thesis of this channel. It's just like, fine, I'll do it myself. So if that sounds interesting to you, and actually I was gonna save this for the end of the video, you know, when you're like, oh, you know, leave a comment about something. Let me know what you think a Final Destination video game would look like. Would it be an asymmetrical Dead by Daylight type of deal where you're just basically like clicking on cabinets and refrigerators and ovens trying to like, you know, end people's lives? Or is it going to be something more akin to a Home Alone type of game where you're setting up all the traps and stuff? Maybe like a prop hunt type of thing where people have to go and interact with different things and you can potentially set them up. I don't know. I'm just learning how to do game designing. So I'm not a professional yet, but you know, someone's got to do it. And now let's go ahead and continue with our scheduled programming.
Step on it, Daddy!
So for those of you who don't know, the Final Destination series is an early 2000s horror, even black comedy type of series, where the whole premise is basically that you can't escape fate and you can't escape death no matter what. The main draw of the series were these elaborate, almost Rube Goldberg-esque kill scenes where you would basically be set up with an expectation of how someone was going to be offed, and then it is completely subverted by something that like you didn't even see coming, but it still makes sense within the grand scheme of the wider picture. So think about with the aforementioned loading the silverware points down, this movie is the reason why I do that. There's one scene where it's set up to make you think that the garbage disposal is going to completely shred up somebody's hand, only for it to be subverted and for them to fall on silverware like knives and stuff that were pointing up. That traumatized me to the point that, yeah, I yell at my kids if they leave points up, because the plausibility of that scene scarred me from when I was like in high school. This was one of the movie series that I vividly remember spending time at my buddy Jimmy's house in his basement in the weekends. We would basically just be hanging out and spending the night there, and we would just completely binge these movies. And in many ways, it's a really funny series. Like, black comedy is very apt for it. because a lot of these deaths are just so ridiculous and in many ways just like so obtuse or so out of left field that it's hard to not laugh at some of them just because of the sheer ludicrousness of it. It's very grim dark in a way. Final Destination is essentially the Warhammer of the horror movie genre. Don't quote me on that. Also, because I'm an old man, I also think that the first 3 movies are probably the best out of the whole series, although 5 was very much a return to form. So for this video, I'm just gonna basically be focusing on the main first 3 movies and then a little bit of 5 as well. So despite the fact that I still find these movies completely ridiculous and silly and funny in very many ways, as I get older, especially like I said, now that I have kids, it went from being like, this is like funhouse, spook house type of horror, funny, scary type of thing, to essentially being like, no, this is existentially terrifying. Like, this could happen. Those first 3 movies literally scarred me to the point that it changed me as a person. In particular, the infamous highway scene from Final Destination 2. If you've seen it, you know, like that. So a really quick breakdown of this scene. Essentially, it's just a bunch of people on a highway, and there's a giant logging truck holding a bunch of like giant logs. And me living in the Pacific Northwest, this is actually not uncommon of a sight. I actually live pretty close to like a giant logging facility, so I see these trucks around. But in Final Destination, the logs come off the truck, and then it starts this giant highway crash, just a giant car pileup, and you are there basically watching everyone get completely demolished, not just by the logs going down the highway, but also the people that are getting hit by the logs, and then those cars running into other cars. And like the thing about it is like this scene, I know that they did it on purpose. I believe that they specifically made this scene to be like as realistic as possible, but still pretty gruesome, and it worked. To this day, I refuse to drive behind semi-trucks and logging trucks and things of that nature if I can avoid it. If I can get around those dudes, I'm going to, because I don't want to end up Final Destination. And on top of that, I have had close calls on the highway and on the road where basically people are just driving like complete assholes, and they're going to either force you to either slow down to merge, or, you know, they're gonna just take the risk and try to scrape your wheels. And despite the fact that a lot of the death scenes or kill scenes or whatever in Final Destination movies, they are kind of played up, they are a bit ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure if we went through, we could probably find examples of very much most of these kills. Like the tanning bed death one, I'm gonna look it up later, but I'm pretty sure that happened in real life. And this is where I think the cosmic horror of it all kind of comes into play as well, especially from a parental perspective. And I feel like people kind of throw the term cosmic horror around a little bit too loosely these days. So here's what I mean by Final Destination as cosmic horror. It's more so the fact that you cannot escape death. No matter what, death will find you, even if he has to take out other people to get to you, or she, or they, or it. Even if they have to take out other people to get to you, they will get to you. And the thing is, it doesn't matter where you are never safe. You could be just working out in a gym or in a hardware store with a nail gun, and then a series of freak accidents happen, and then you're just starting a new Minecraft hardcore server. When people talk about cosmic horror, they're talking about unknowable forces in the universe and cosmic entities and all that. But thinking about the fact that you could basically have something just spark in your walls due to bad wiring that you never knew that you had, which would cause a chain reaction to cause something else to blow up, like a barbecue, or to basically be somewhere where a fireworks display gets completely mishandled and you're the casualty of it because somebody couldn't do their job right. That's real cosmic horror to me. It's the fact that you could do everything right in this universe and still get completely removed for some arbitrary reason. Like, me being a paranoid dad, every time that I'm going somewhere with my kids, I always tell myself in my head, careful, because you don't want this to be the last time that you and whatever kid I'm with see the family. And even if I do everything right, there's always the very reasonable and valid expectation that I could still end up in a very fatal car crash because of somebody else's negligence. That's the true cosmic horror. That is the true thing in the fact that the universe doesn't care about you enough to let like a drunk or inattentive driver take something that you care about away from you. Okay, I don't want to end this video on a downer. Let's talk about just how these death scenes just became increasingly more elaborate and more silly, and it almost became just like a horror movie version of the Hitman games, where yes, what you're doing is technically like being very brutal about ending someone's existence, but it's still just kind of funny. Like, for example, the tanning bed scene definitely felt kind of just like a little mini piece of commentary on the culture at the time, where tanning beds were very normalized, even though they knew that it was very bad for you. There's the scene with the kid that's going to the dentist, and that one is probably one of my favorite scenes because of how it builds up the tension and it just keeps cranking it up. And then he walks out of the appointment. You are just like, okay, he made it out. And it actually kind of disarms you for a second. It allows you to think that he's at least going to live until the next scene. And then that giant glass frame just comes and just turns him into Play-Doh. It is almost comical in the sense of that's how they basically Charlie Brown you, or they not Lucy Lou you, they Lucy you. But in terms of just like storytelling and filmmaking, it's absolutely brilliant stuff. And then I know everyone also talks about it, but the gymnastics scene from 5 is once again this perfect moment of building tension, building up the expectation, doing the Alfred Hitchcock, bomb under the table thing. And then once again, just pulling a Lucy, pulling out that football and having it end a completely different way. And it's one of those things that like you can't be mad at it because it still fits within the rules of the universe, which once again, good storytelling, good filmmaking. We need a bit more of just let's have some fun schlock, and it kind of sucks that horror is really the only genre that can get away with doing stuff like that right now. Side tangent, but putting that in there for engagement. So as we wrap up, I'm just going to say really quick, like my kids are starting to become more interested in horror type of things. They have seen Mark Plyer play some horror games on YouTube and stuff like that, which, I can't be mad. I did the same thing. So anyways, in regards to Final Destination, I don't know if I would actually show them these movies because of all the stuff I talked about earlier. A lot of this stuff is too plausible for them to not have an association with it at their age. We went to Disneyland not that long ago. We did that towards the end of summer, and then showing them like the roller coaster scene when it was already kind of a challenge to get some of my kids on certain rides. Yeah, no, terrible idea. Like maybe when they're teenagers, they can handle it and they can kind of separate it, but I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. But I think what makes Final Destination endure isn't just the creative deaths, it's how it taps into that universal fear of random and unpredictable things. And as a parent, maybe that's why I'm kind of grateful for those ridiculous scenes, because sometimes the best way to really deal with real fears is to kind of laugh at them and laugh at the absurdity of some of them. Okay, and welcome back. It has literally been maybe 3, 4, 5 seconds for me, and it has probably been quite a few minutes for you. So if you have made it this far and you weren't basically spaghettified by that time dilation that I created, that's my Stan's ability. Let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know what you think about Final Destination. And once again, let me know what you think about a Final Destination video game, how that would work. That would actually be a really fun experiment. So let me know what you think, and maybe that will help me learn how to make video games. Like building prototypes that you guys suggest for me. That actually sounds really fun. I think my next video is going to be about cartoons, and then maybe the one after that is going to be about cartoons. Or wait, no, my next one's going to be about like millennial nostalgia stuff. So If that sounds good to you, that's okay. All right, I gotta do dishes now before my kids get home. So thank you again for your time. I really genuinely appreciate it. I appreciate you. I hope my audio doesn't end. Okay, bye.